Heyo, Picket here, and now for something completely different. So, I don't usually do reactionary content on this channel unless it's gaming event coverage, which even then I kinda just stopped doing. And that's mainly because I don't really like doing reactions unless I actually could add something to the conversation. I mean, let's face it, no one likes those chair streamers, especially on Twitch. Oh man, that's gonna be an interesting lawsuit to follow. But anyways, I figure I may as well try my hand at reacting to something I'm actually interested in, so decided to go ahead and cover, well, Andrew Dobson. Since, let's face it, he's always fun to talk about regardless of whether or not he's actually relevant anymore. Now, I would totally do a reaction to Dylan the Night Owl's definitive coverage of the thing, but since I only have so much time to do a reaction and very little space on my PC, I'll go ahead and just do a reaction to MagicMush's documentary on the thing instead, and basically elaborate on a few points. And yeah, a quick overview on who Andrew Dobson is. He was a webcomic artist who was pretty popular back in the day, and then he lost his fucking mind, and yeah, he basically became, charitably speaking, the pirate software of the 2010s. Yeah, this is the type of person we're covering today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and cut to the video. Alright. Man, been a hot minute since I've done a reaction video. I forgot I actually had the thing on standby. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Webcomics. In the earliest days of the internet, webcomics were one of the most popular forms of entertainment. Since in the early 2000s dial-up internet was still the standard, and loading a video could take 5 weeks, webcomics were a very easy way to gain a following online.
Yeah, man, those are the days. Wild West of the internet. Yeah, I can imagine that's what I'm talking about. Damn, I never got into the MySpace craze. I really feel like I missed out there.
It just needed to be an image that loaded up. Back in the 2000s, webcomics were incredibly popular. Be it Penny Arcade, Control-Alt-Delete, or whatever floats your boat.
Yeah? Don't remember which comic that came from.
They made a name for themselves. The quality of those webcomics nowadays can definitely be put into question. You'll get your...
Yeah, man. Those were different times back then. I still remember the Smack Jeeves era. It was basically a prototype of the Tumblr community, which sadly collapsed after porn got banned, hilariously enough. And then they invaded Twitter, which then collapsed after Nazis decided to run the site. And now they're on Blue Sky or Threads. I don't know Threads, so I'm basically a Blue Sky dude. I mean, I'm still on Tumblr, and I just don't get as big a following as I got back in the day.
day in the spotlight someday, Buckley. But right
Still
now,
waiting for that
we're
episode.
gonna put our focus on one very specific webcomic creator, and possibly the biggest downfall of a webcomic creator on the internet. This is Tom Preston, also known as Andrew Dobson. Dobson made a very popular webcomic in the early 2010s, and probably holds the record for peaking too early in his career and for being the biggest punching bag of a webcomic artist ever. And today, we're going to talk about why this is.
Ah, man. Yeah, another reason I wanted to cover Andrew Dobson, because he followed his So You're a Cartoonist comic back in the day. This was before the shark jumping moment where he got that blue bear persona. Or whatever the fuck it was. I think it was just plagiarizing Grumpy Bear. But Grumpy Bear was actually fucking likable. And yeah, it is a very long story, and MagicMush covers plenty of moments in this video, but trust me, it actually gets worse when you analyze the context behind a lot of these shitty actions.
This is the story of Dobson.
I don't think this bubble can get much bigger.
Nonsense!
Foreshadowing is a literary device. Yeah, I think I may have done that joke too early. Yeah. Trust me, these transitions actually get dumber in context.
Dobson was mostly unknown in the early 2000s. Well, that's what he would have you believe anyway.
Yeah, I really did that foreshadowing joke early.
He would remain on the down low on the internet through most of the 2000s, drawing art, which is heavily inspired by 90s anime and Nintendo games. The anime influence in his artwork is very blatant. You can tell he was one of the original weebs of the 90s. And now that I mentioned...
I mean, to be fair, who wasn't back in the day? I mean, even TV networks were weebs back then. We're always trying to shill for the anime aesthetic without actually going full in on the anime. Well, except for Last Airbender, but sadly that was way too good to last. Like everything on Nickelodeon.
I'm going to have to bring this up. Dobson's story is very similar to another person I've already covered. Movie Bob.
Oh man, that was another disappointment back in the day. Guys, even if I wasn't a shitty anti-SJW back in the day, I find his downfall to be insane. But that's another story altogether. The anti-SJW days were basically the emo phases of the 2010s, so not exactly something we look back on fondly. Thankfully, I was not a fan of Destiny, so even back then.
Are incredibly similar in many ways.
One walk at a
They're
time.
now in their 40s. Both are obsessed with Nintendo. Both have a very similar political leaning. Both are very feminist. You could look at them from far away and mistake them for the same person.
Now that you mention
Both
it,
went on completely separate paths. Movie Ball went on to become a movie critic, and Dobson went on to make webcomics. Their upbringing
your
was
mileage may
also
vary
incredibly
which one
similar.
was worse.
They're both outcasts and were bullied for their obsession with Nintendo and geek stuff, but Dobson's bullying was apparently so bad he had to move states. Specifically,
okay, this one is debatable. Well, yes, Andrew does mention that he was bullied back in the day, but there were a couple testimonies saying that Dobson wasn't exactly a good person either. But like I said, it's a he said, she said situation, so your guess, you could just believe what you want to believe for that one. Yeah, let's keep going.
Minnesota, where he then attended the Minneapolis College of Art and Design in the early 2000s. Now, this is a very prestigious college.
Well, the plus side didn't even go to CalArts. Sorry, as a Californian, I have to make that joke all the time.
College to go to. It costs quite a penny to go here, so Dobson was very privileged to be able to attend this college, but he only viewed them in a negative light. He basically admitted he dropped everything they taught him in order to go back to his idea of how art should be, which tells me they probably criticized his art, which is a college they're going to do that.
Okay, this one's going to be a little bit controversial to my artist audience members, but yeah, that is a stupid move on Dobson's end. I mean, yeah, sure. I basically was a lousy art student even nowadays, but I still took many of their pointers. I mean, you would not believe how amazing masks are when until you actually learn how to use them properly. I still use them to this day. I wouldn't even known what a mask even was unless I actually went to art class. I only barely passed the class where I actually learned where masks are, but still, even if that basically emphasizes my point. Even if you don't really learn all that much from it, it's still pretty useful to actually take an art class. This has been my TED Talk. Well, I'm still watching the video, so yeah, I guess my TED Talk is still continuing.
That's their job, and he didn't take too kindly to that. Major foreshadowing. Also, since he's balding in his 20s, God, I hate seeing myself in these people.
Mode.
He wore a stupid fedora every day to class, and it got him the nickname Hat Andy.
Okay, fine. I typically get haircuts to have my hair shorter all the time, but at Widow's Peak is getting worse, and honestly, having curls is not really that fun either. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Which sounds like a Linkara side character. I am a man! After graduating,
You know, surprisingly, I never actually gave a shit about a lot of Linkara's questionable aspects. I don't know, maybe it's because he's too milquetoast and, I don't know, pretty socially awkward, or it is honestly just kind of there. I mean, sure, his kinks are weird, but I don't really think he really shows them off in public. You really have to dig for those. Which, okay, granted, what we're going to cover later, that's going to sound questionable, but there's always an exception to kink shaming. That's what I'm going to say for now.
graduating from college, Dobson would mostly post art and comics on his DeviantArt, a lot of which are, like I said, based off of his favorite properties he grew up with, notably 90s anime and Nintendo. Oh boy, does he love himself some Nintendo. He's not Movie Bob levels of obsessed with them, but he's close. He would express his fan.
Yeah, I could vouch for that. He's obsessed with Nintendo, but not Movie Bob obsessed. I don't think he has a book somewhere. I mean, he has a webcomic, but that will be covered soon, but you know what I mean.
Fanboyism for Nintendo in one of his older comics called Danny and Spot. Danny's too focused on the AAA next-gen high-budget games on the PS3 and 360, but Spot is here to show him games on the Wii are way better because they're fun. Oh, look at...
Wow, Andrew Dobson actually created the first PC Master Race bullshitter. Truly a genius ahead of his time. That was sarcasm, in case you couldn't tell.
These guys playing games the boring way. But look at that. They're having fun on the Wii, flailing around like they have Parkinson's.
I mean, you still...
That's fun. That's what gaming is.
I mean, you still kind of do that on the Switch. And Switch 2, I think. I don't know, I don't have a Switch 2. Hashtag poor people problems.
It's all about. Oh, those adult games are too serious and boring. The Wii's just like the wheel on the round earth. It's not a fad.
I still miss the Wii Shop. A lot of people miss the Wii Shop. But yeah, it totally was a fad. Kinda. Oh man, I'm an obnoxious douche. I never actually I'd see him featured in a MagicMush video. Actually, side note, was anyone else ever puzzled by the fact that that's paint asshole meme was trending on Tumblr a while back? Especially knowing where it came from. Just me? Alright.
So I'm not showing this off just to expose Dobson's fanboyism. It's also the prototype format for a vast chunk of his work in the future. This person is stupid, but this person is a smart and informed one who aligns with Dobson's own views. This is what many have dubbed a strawman comic. The person who they don't agree with.
Yeah, if you think a lot of that was cringe, just wait until you get into his politics. Yeah, that is foreshadowing. Be afraid.
Has their arguments boiled down to the point it's easy to debunk in a few comic panels. Also, they're ugly, fat, angry, or just stupid. Dobson loves this format, as he would use it for years, especially in 2010 when a little game called Metroid Other M came out. Everyone who knows about Metroid Other M knows it is a very controversial game and considered one of the worst Metroid games, and Dobson...
Oh, man, that was a dark age. And yeah, apparently Adam was also given the idiot stick in that game. At least Josh Scorcher thinks that. Even parodied the Dead Parrots sketch from Monty Python just to express as how much he hated it in new ways, because I guess even everyone kind of knew he was beating a dead horse at that point. But enough about that.
Defended this game with his dying breath. He considered it the best Metroid game, and considered Metroid Prime, one of the most loved Metroid games, to be the worst one. An act of true...
Yeah, that is a very weird thing that Movie Bob also coincidentally held the same opinion on. Those two are weirdly similar when you start analyzing the both of them. Then again, Movie Bob's still around, I think. So I guess someone won in the end.
True contrarianism. He would constantly get into arguments online about it, even years after its release. So Dobson, very early on, was already very combative and argumentative with people he didn't agree with. I just want you to imagine what it would be like with something that actually mattered. There was no moment of peace or him starting off calm and mild-mannered. From the very early days he was on the web, he was already stirring the pot with other people. Even in his DeviantArt blog posts, there was constant complaining and arguments. In 2006, he made this blog post where he detailed...
Ah, man, sounds like the average Twitter user. Oh, and yeah, trust me. This next story is gonna be one of the points where I actually elaborate on a story that he tells, so...
He was hooked up with a Jewish girlfriend and then had a Hanukkah with her and her family, where he was miserable because it was a lot more boring compared to Christmas. He started drawing an art piece to express how miserable he was, and then his girlfriend saw the picture he drew and naturally took offense to it. He took something that mattered a lot to her and made it about himself. you could probably guess how the relationship turned out after that. So,
Okay, that story actually gets dumber when you look into it. Okay, so after the girlfriend saw the picture and got mad, Dobson realized he's fucked up and went into his room and wrote an entire journal on that story. Okay? Immediately after it was posted, his girlfriend posted a comment calling Dobson out, saying all she wanted was for him to apologize and actually socialize with her family. Yeah, it's fucking stupid, and Dobson had no one to blame for that eventual breakup but himself. A reoccurring theme, I assure you.
So this would continue on for a few years. He would make little tiny comics and art pieces on his DeviantArt, argue with people. He would make animations and demo reels on YouTube to show off his animation skills.
Hey, paisano!
Oh my god. Mario, Luigi, Princess, Toad!
Who did you expect? Pee-wee Herman?
Okay, that's cringe, yes, but it's early internet cringe. Trust me, a lot of content was similar to that. Now, considering this dude wanted to be an animator, one wonders why he just never went to Newgrounds and just became one. I mean, it was right there, and the internet animation boom was still happening. And I guess he just liked being the victim, which was hilariously the same conclusion in Dylan the Night Owl ultimately came to. But enough that little tangent.
One day, he created this little comic he dubbed the Potato Comic. A basic little comic where Dobson makes himself dinner with a single potato and then proceeds to make a pop culture reference. This one comic would inspire Dobson to truly start his career. A career for the ages.
An age that ended as quickly as it started.
Of course! You stick out like a big sore pink thumb!
Less talky, more wishy. I wish the whole world was back to the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, trust me, that's
In January of 2011,
still foreshadowing something. You probably figured it out if you know the story.
Dobson will create his most popular comic, So You're a Cartoonist. This was a webcomic dedicated to Dobson showing off his struggles as an online cartoonist, detailing his early life and upbringing in a very comedic and exaggerated fashion. And it was a surprise hit. A lot of artists were able to relate.
Yeah, it was a surprise hit. I actually enjoyed it when it was actually talking about his life as an artist. Yeah, I am still pissed off on how much Dobson screwed up his own premise. But we'll get to that.
And laughed at all the crap Dobson went through to get where he was now. Around the same time making this, he also collaborated with internet musician Brent Floss to make a comic series for him. So Dobson is finally...
Ah, yeah, right. He did make a comic, didn't he? And I don't remember that comic being any good. So, I mean, okay, there was one comic that was actually kind of funny, but I don't really think they really intended it to be as funny as it was. Okay, so the comic was basically Brentalfloss just telling the story of how his webcomic was conceived. Basically just talking with a friend and saying that, yeah, making a webcomic was an awesome idea, and even proposing to get Andrew Dobson involved. And then Brentalfloss and his friend and make a joke saying that they wish that they were girls so that they could have his babies. And then the final panel was basically Andrew Dobson drawing the comic and saying, what? They were the ones who wrote it. Yeah. It was funny, but not in the way that Brelfoss probably anticipated it. Sadly, the rest of the comic wasn't that funny. But at least we know that Andrew Dobson had no hand in it being unfunny.
Only getting recognition after all.
So that's one less blemish on his resume.
But as anyone should know, fame is a package deal. When you get a ton of people looking up to you and enjoying your work, you also get a lot of people who think you could do better. And here comes the most well-known fact about Dobson. Andrew Dobson cannot take criticism.
Yeah, that was ultimately his biggest flaw. And one he never got around, and one that mixed horribly with his self-deprecation. Are you starting to see where this whole thing fell apart?
Now I want to make one thing very clear here. I am not an artist. I am not an art critic. I can't really judge how good or bad Dobson's art is because I have very low standards to consider something good. I mean, look, my art skills are basically Christian monkey scratchings. I cannot draw worth a damn. So anything that could potentially be wrong with Dobson's art...
I mean, sure, they're Christian chicken scratchings, but at least it's not AI. Yeah, trust me, any piece of artwork is better than AI. Don't give up on your dreams, people. They all start somewhere. And at the very least, you'll probably know that you'll improve better than Andrew Dobson does.
I won't be able to notice, but I know some people who do draw are probably pulling their hair out just seeing some of Dobson's work. Dobson gets a lot of flack and criticism for his art skills. The ordinary online artist is always looking to improve their work. They will always want to evolve and grow in their hobby. That's why they always ask for critiques and ways they can improve.
Most of the time, sometimes it's really that they just want to put stuff out there and know that their art's probably not that great, unless they're delusional. But that's something for r/delusional artists.
That's a big part of art culture. Andrew Dobson is not the ordinary online artist.
Ain't that the truth?
If you get a comment that says something like, "This art piece sucks and so do you," that's just a throwaway comment that helps no one in any way. Comments that are saying stuff like, "You could do some more shading here, or fix this up, or change this to make it better," that's a suggestion on how to improve. To Andrew Dobson, these two comments are the exact same. You cannot criticize...
Yeah. He's not exaggerating, by the way. One comic that never seems to get brought up in these documentaries, which is kind of odd since it kind of directed a lot of attention towards Andrew Dobson's flaws, was the Bingo comic. Andrew Dobson made the comic specifically as a fuck you, his typical fuck you to his critics. But the things he listed on said bingo card, which was ultimately the part of the punchline, were very legitimate criticisms against him. Yeah. That was arguably one of the reasons the dude became pretty fucking infamous. It's often brought up as one of said reasons the dude ultimately became hated. The other reasons will be brought up eventually. Trust me.
Dobson's work in any way. It does not matter how nice you are or how good your intentions are. If you criticize his art, he will argue with you, he will mock you, and he will block you. In the comment section of his art pieces, you can find long strings of him arguing with people over his art all the time. He will make people criticizing his.
Yeah, he really did feel at home on Twitter, didn't he? And Tumblr. And yeah, it was a problem even back then.
Art the punchline in some of his comics where they're a dumb poo-poo head and he's the smart one. He never tries actually debunking their criticism.
Oh, and yeah, I should probably bring it up since a lot of people tend to tell this story a lot. The reason Andrew Dobson has that blue Care Bear hair as his avatar in future comics, it was basically a result of him not accepting criticism in probably the dumbest way possible. See, everyone keeps bringing up that Andrew Dobson is bald and always seems to portray himself as having hair in his comics. But he ultimately got sick of it, and despite explaining it once in a comic and just letting it go, then the dude just outright made himself a blue Care Bear, and did it specifically because he hated people just bringing it up constantly. If that makes no sense to you, trust me, he has even dumber takes. One of which will probably be brought up a little bit later. But bit of a warning, your mind will melt once we get there.
He usually just goes, "I don't care," and they're just mad. Because of Dobson's absolute rejection of any criticism whatsoever, a result of this is his art has remained stagnant since the early 2000s. Artists love.
Yeah. Bit of a tangent here, but if your art remains stagnant for 10 years, just quit. Look, and I mean if it remains stagnant and you refuse to change it. I mean, sure, a comfort style is one thing, but if the style isn't improving, there's really no point in just drawing anymore. This might just be a hot take, Hank, so
when their art improves over the years, when your style develops. I'm not even an art person, and even I can tell there is very little development in Dobson's art. It's the same 90s manga and anime styled stuff as always been, because he refuses to take any suggestions to change it or stylize it. He's also very self-aware about his art and his career not developing.
Yeah, this also makes very little sense and it's because of his self-deprecation. If you're not going to improve, why bother to complain?
He has multiple comics talking about how pathetic he is, but you're doing this to yourself. There's no point in being self-aware if you aren't going to do anything about it. Oh, and that whole 90s
yeah, exactly.
Anime inspiration is another thing to put up on Dobson's wall of shame. The man has a hate boner for any anime airing past 1999, but loves the stuff he grew up with and will only take cues from that. One time, he tried stylizing Steven Universe characters in the style of one of his favorite 90s Japanese artists.
Yeah, bit of a controversial take here, but I've seen worse. I mean, sure, it's bad, but definitely not terrible. It's definitely no Simpsons, but it's also not that cringe, is what I'm saying.
It did not turn out well. Part of his seething hatred for more adult-oriented anime blown
Okay, yeah, this is the part where your brain is gonna melt straight out of your skull, because trust me, it's as batshit insane as it's going to sound. With me, people?
blowing up in popularity in the early 2000s is because he thinks it actually had a negative impact on his life. Okay, so I just want you to just try and wrap your head around this. Dobson's dream since childhood was to be an animator at Disney. He would write and read about it, while his family said it was a bad idea. That's why he went to college. Then, in 2002, a movie called Treasure Planet came out. I just want to say, Treasure Planet is my favorite Disney movie. That movie is a damn classic, and it has soul. Dobson, however...
Yeah, I love that movie too. And I have a friend, Andrew, likes the movie. Probably more than I do, but that's besides the point.
Thinks differently of it. He thinks the movie was inspired by the more adult anime around the time. It tried to be much more mature than a typical Disney film, but the movie bombed at the box office. And because it bombed, Disney fired a ton of animators, and this was when they started pushing more into CGI because of it failing. So now, his dream of working at Disney was now shot because Treasure Planet bombed, which he thinks was inspired by anime, so therefore anime ruined his career and therefore his life. You got that?
You didn't? Yeah, neither do we, and to this day, I have no idea what the fuck any of that had to do with why he's failing. This dude would rather blame him a bomb that was likely intentional on Disney's end than admit that he is the reason he's a failure. Jesus fucking Christ.
I know it seems like we're just jumping around all over the place, but that's really the best way to look at Dobson. It's not really a straightforward story. It's more like an anthology of events that come together.
Oh yeah, that's Samus picture.
Look at Dobson. It's not really a straightforward story. It's
Yeah, that Samus picture is going to become even funnier a little bit later on. Foreshadowing is a literary device.
more like an anthology of events that come together and really explain why things are the way they are with him. Of course, being a controversial artist, you can't not have a tracing scandal. Take a
Ooh,
look at
classic.
Dobson and a lot of British media, and tell me.
Yeah, I've been around. What he says is true.
If it wasn't plainly obvious, that Big Bang back there is blatantly traced, and even.
Well, it's more of just cut and paste and edited, I think. I mean, a bit of another hot take for me, but it took me a couple minutes to realize that Big Ben was actually the problem. Mainly because, well, British animation tends to use resource picks a lot. Of course, in hindsight, also noticing the classic God gag from Monty Python and the Holy Grail up there also being drawn, it's a bit obvious, but yeah, let's continue.
Worse, since he planned on selling this at a convention. People were very quick to notice and called Dobson out for this, which Dobson didn't take too well.
You didn't stick with your original drawing of Big Ben, which is...
Yeah, like I said, in hindsight, it's a bit more egregious, especially when you know that he drew the freaking Big Ben. But yeah, it did. If you didn't know the context, it would have taken you a couple seconds.
is absolutely fine and was stylized to the rest of the picture. You didn't also do this for the TARDIS, which I could probably bring up, but the point is that it's pretty easy to focus on Big Ben because it sticks out like a sore thumb.
This also isn't the only time.
Yeah. Like I said, if you know what you're looking at, it becomes insanely blatant. But if you don't know what you're looking at, it might be fine. I don't know.
Dobson has done something illegal when it comes to selling art. He also attempted to sell art with a ton of licensed characters he didn't own and was called out for this as well. And of course, he made a comic in response because of course he would. And finally, we have to...
I mean, if he could just kind of defend his case, I mean, yeah, it's a stupid thing to do, but he actually just made his case like an adult. The backlash wouldn't have been that huge.
talk about the Metroid commission.
Like I said, that Metroid picture from earlier was gonna be absolutely hilarious. Okay, maybe not hilarious per se, but this is gonna make the following story even worse on Dobson's end.
Perfect taste of the Metroid series, but when it came to actually drawing said series, it was just as bad. In 2014, someone commissioned Dobson to draw a picture of Samus breaking out of her power armor while fighting Ridley. Dobson asked for $45 up front for it, and he would send in progress of the picture, which of course the customer asked for touch-ups. This would continue on for a few weeks until the pic was finally done. 4 months later, it took him...
Jesus Christ, he's worse at commissions than I am. And that's saying something.
4 months to finish this picture, which is of average quality and not asking for anything big. Oh, and by the way, the Ridley in the background is traced.
Of course.
Revealed that the thing was actually set up by 4chaners, who wanted to see what would happen if they commissioned him. After he found this...
Okay, yeah, this story actually gets even more hilarious when you know exactly why they did this. Okay, so 4chan got annoyed by Andrew Dobson just ignoring criticism because, well, they didn't commission him, so they didn't pay him, so they have no right to complain. Never mind the fact that this is 4chan, and they'll try and resurrect a freaking MMO scandal just to get a taste of how good that failure felt to them. But anyway, back to the story. So 4chan had decided, why not pay Andrew Dobson and commission him to actually draw something for them, and then they could criticize it. They pulled in their funds, purchased the said Samus commission, which looks worse than the one on the other screen, and ultimately proved their point. Andrew Dobson is absolute dog shit at commissioning people. Or, I mean, in commissions. I cannot words. And you probably shouldn't give him money. Which people didn't. I mean, probably like... I mean, dude probably could have made money doing something else, but like I said, we'll get to that.
Out, he was, in his own words, traumatized. He refused to do any commissions for at least 2 years, but he didn't know about this until after the fact. You can look online and see what took so much of Dobson's free time. Arguing with people.
Yeah, no
We've
shit.
only scratched the surface, so buckle up. It's time to delve even deeper into Dobson's dark spiral.
Be afraid. Before you ask, no, Andrew Dobson's not into flatulence. Surprisingly.
Now, like I've said before, Dobson and Movie Bob have a lot of similarities. This also includes their politics and their moral beliefs, which are damn near identical. No, Dobson...
And I believe, Eve, they're both incels. Or at least or at least Bob is. I never actually looked into whether or not Andrew Dobson actually scored. I mean, he might have. And he probably found a way to screw that up.
Dobson isn't nearly as extreme as Movie Bob was. He doesn't wish for eugenics or some way of wiping out people who disagree.
That's a real tweet by Movie Bob, by the way. Trust me. That is a story for another day, but let's just say there is a very good reason the Movie Bob or Nazi questionnaire exists.
Agree with him, but basically if I were to go over everything, it'd be just a Diet Coke version of Movie Bob, so I'll keep it brief.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it.
Heavy left-leaning. He's very feminist and fights for groups that are marginalized. He talked a lot about Goo Brigade and a bunch of other things of that matter. He hates any sort of objectification of women and sexism in any industry, and has made a ton of comics about it. You've probably seen this.
Yeah, this is gonna give a lot of context to a later tangent. So keep this in mind.
The same song and dance 1,000 times already. Most notably, he's a big ally of the LGBTQ community, especially in the Western animation scene. And by that I mean you take off the G's, the B's, the T's, and everything else, and you're left with what most of his career consists of. Nothing but L's.
Dang!
It's no secret, Dobson...
Also, just like Donald Trump. Yeah, I'm still pissed by that. Anyways.
Dobson had a huge bias towards lesbian couples. He would draw them, and nothing but them.
It's a fetish. Yeah, I'm gonna be blunt. It's a fucking fetish. And this is coming from a dude who... And as someone who also makes a lot of gay thirst, mainly on the male end, I can 100% confirm it's a fetish. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just... Dude, you gotta admit it's a fucking fetish.
Constantly. You can probably count on one hand all the male gay couples he's drawn, but the ladies get all the love. You could start a seafood restaurant with all the damn clam slamming going on in Dobson's art galleries. And I'm not saying that to be offensive, I'm saying that because this is the most thinly veiled representation I've ever seen. It's pretty obvious what's actually going on here. Dobson is more than likely getting his jollies from drawing this, and some might be thinking,
I mean, it worked for him on Tumblr. And I think Twitter. For a bit. I mean, they loved that shit on those platforms. If they're able to just get past Andrew Dobson being Andrew Dobson. Really raises the question why he didn't just keep on taking commissions.
well, Mush, you're just being judgmental. There's nothing inherently wrong with a grown man in his 30s drawing cartoon lesbians being cute and mushy. And well, maybe you're right, but I have a counterpoint. We have to go back to Dobson's old DeviantArt gallery. Around 2009, Dobson created a comic series called Alex the Pirate, a little...
Yeah, I never actually read that comic. Probably should have back in the day, but I don't know, I just had a lot of comics that I read. Ah, man, I still miss Mac Jeeves.
Comic about a ragtag team of pirates going on wacky.
I mean the old Smack Jeeves.
There's a bunch of anime tropes tossed in here. You got the oblivious to love, the perfect grandpa, but then you got the Dobson touch, a lesbian pirate. The dynamic here is the main character, Alex, definitely not Captain Syrup from Wario Land, has the hots for the
Totally
woman
not.
whose name is Sam. Seems the top surgeon went well. Then
Trans
there's a
rights.
pirate named Atia, who has the hots for Alex, and then there's Sam, who only cares about treasure. It mainly focuses on Alex.
I mean, it's a fun dynamic. Gotta admit.
And their wacky shenanigans of love, in quotations, very progressive for the time. Progressive in the terms that Dobson's other hand was progressively going down below while drawing these, because this is 100% fuel for him. Earlier on in the comic's life, everything...
I don't know, it seems like generic fluff to me, but... Yeah, knowing Dobson, he definitely was getting off to this.
Thing was very tame.
Especially with the
There was
future
a little
changes.
gag with Alex being incredibly androgynous, so people thought she was a boy. But as it went on,
Of course, I also know a few things about this comic. Especially the
the
change that he made.
completely dropped for something more voluptuous, and then the antics with her and Atia started being a bigger focus, with Alex getting groped, constantly taking baths, and always finding ways for them to take their clothes off with each other. Yeah, this man is clearly drawing this for his own personal needs. You really expect me to believe in his refusal to change after all these years he's changed in that regard? Nah, ain't happening. This comic is...
It's strangely the only thing he stuck with. Still foreshadowing.
for him, and so is him drawing all those couples. It was also a pioneer in creating girl boss characters, while they flat out say they're better than men in one comic. Man, someone get this man a dummy mommy. A dobby mommy, if you will.
I had to see that, so do you.
He coined the term lesbian kick. And I think he actually tried to make this a meme or something. He really thought it would catch on. He made shirts of it. You know?
Yeah, sorry, Dobson, but it ain't I am a man punch. Or the I am a man punch. Probably wouldn't get a t-shirt of that.
No, Dobson, if you really want to draw naked ladies in a mediocre 90s anime art style, you could have just started an NSFW account. I've seen worse artists get a following. He wanted to get...
Yeah, typical reaction to anyone who hears about Shad Man. Dame Ava didn't take that advice.
and get clout at the same time. And that's a recipe for disaster. Anytime you made a new art piece for a new show with gay women in it, people would automatically assume it was him thirsty again, which it probably was. Anytime someone would ask him, why don't you draw something other than lesbians, he usually points to one of like 3 pictures he's drawn of others, and that's about it. Of course people are going to find it weird when a man in his mid-30s who has drawn comics about women taking their clothes off all the time starts exclusively drawing lesbians. Of course people are going to take it the wrong way. You could bet Dobson would...
I mean, I have a lot of variety in my stuff. Not just gay dudes. I draw women too. And again, I'm pansexual, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Would argue about this as well. Oh boy, when his popularity got boosted, so did the level of arguing. He was arguing with more people than ever before. Not just for art critiques, but also for him constantly sipping over lesbians, his constant bad takes on things, and the absolute ridiculous claims he held. If you didn't like something that was diverse or had a woman in the starring role, you just hated women. Can't be for anything else. He did this with Star Wars.
Yeah. And that's just the tamer takes he had. I've actually seen his Twitter back in the day. Be very afraid.
And Marvel, because of course he did. He's checking off all those boxes.
And I don't really know the context of that reaction.
Or some istrophobe. It's
I feel like I missed out on good cringe there.
egocentric behavior. It was very easy to get into an argument with Dobson for just about anything, and because of this fact, he became the prime target for massive trolling.
Yeah, there's a good reason. Don't feed the trolls exist, people. I know this is a very hard lesson to teach in the social media age, but if you're going to feel strongly about something, and be prepared to have people oppose that opinion. Especially the people who will ultimately get off by milking cows, as I don't think only I said. I mean, someone probably used that term.
Here we go. Any second now. Any second now.
Is Chatter any good? I never saw it.
Dobson was very famous for being very easy to troll and make fun of. It was not hard at all to agitate him. Over the years, people had found ways to mess with him in increasingly over-the-top ways. I already mentioned the Samus Commission. Well, that one wasn't really a troll, more like a psyop. In 2012, someone walked up to his booth at a convention and sprayed him in the face with water before booking it.
Surprised he wasn't wearing a carnival mask. And maybe Dobson would have fled.
Dobson had a Minecraft server he spent a ton of free time on, making all these little art projects on it, until 4chan found out about it, and of course, did their 4chan thing.
Yeah, why did he make that server public? That's just begging for trouble.
It wasn't just trolls with no life either. Dobson was getting angry on every website. He was even getting riled up and blocking people on Miiverse. Miiverse! Even little kids knew this guy was a walking punchline. And most...
Yeah, that still makes me laugh. I think Miiverse never actually stuck around.
famous of all, one day in the mid-2010s, he made a certain comic. Dobson went to a convention where he was at a
Oh man, I know this story. If the bingo comic didn't destroy his career, this moment probably did for a lot of people.
While he was at said convention, he witnessed a confrontation two people had while signing that stuck with him enough to make a comic based on it. Tell your girls to smile. Axeman, what are you doing? Leave that poor woman alone!
Ah, so that's why he lost his monetization back then.
Never fear, Dobson is here to save the day.
Help! A blue bear in a fedora's attacked me with a baseball bat!
Now,
And if you thought that's cringe, just wait till you hear the context behind it.
no way this happened in real life, so this is probably just a power fantasy of what he should have done. But remember, this is supposedly based on something that actually happened. Some dude was actually taking pictures of a girl in a Power Girl costume, and yeah, it did happen. And then the picture showed up online. So,
Yep.
a stark contrast to what the
It was actually consensual.
Dobson comic was showing. Not only is she not offended, she is presenting herself to the camera. She was into it. You can get a glimpse of Dobby in the background, no doubt fuming this altercation was happening, and made her the victim in the comic when she isn't one. This man fabricated this entire scenario in his head.
Yeah, you want to know the funnier part? The two were actually boyfriend and girlfriend. And he fabricated this entire scenario.
This comic was torn to shreds. People had
To say the
a
least.
field day with this comic. It was the funniest thing Dobson had produced in his entire career. People started making parodies of it where the ending was changed or the characters were changed. Till you go.
Oh, actually, I have one more thing to add to this. So Andrew Dobson actually made a sequel to that previous comic. And typical in Dobson fashion, he completely sidestepped why everyone was pissed off at it. Informed everyone that conventions started saying, hey, costumes don't always mean consent or whatever, which, well, true, is not the problem we had with it. Yeah, needless to say, it did not go over well either. Though, considering all the shit Dobson would later pull later, I think that comic just kinda got lost in the shuffle of shit that we hate Dobson over.
Girls to smile.
Whatever you're talking about, I don't care. Put Buzz back the way he was, then get lost.
Savage Woody.
This is probably the most famous thing Dobson has ever made. If you know about Dobson anyway, it was probably from this comic and its many parodies. Dobson was already seen as someone to make fun of on social media for a while, not only for not being able to take criticism, not only for calling people every istanphobe in the book, but for other such incidents, like this one, on August 11th, 2015. Zelda Williams...
Oh boy. This was, okay, I'll admit, even the blog Sawyer Andrew Dobson kinda gave Dobson the benefit of the doubt for this incident. But, as you're gonna see later, that's, all you're ever going to give him.
With a meme telling her to calm thy tits. Well, Dobson, that's one way to respond to a woman having a hard day. I wonder what could be causing her distress. I wonder what tragic event could have happened the year previous to make that day hard for her.
Gee, I wonder what it was!
Well, what a thing to say to a woman on the anniversary of her father's death. He deleted the tweet, and it took a heavy amount of pushback for him to finally apologize to her. The amount of backlash Dobson got...
Yeah, this is why reading the room is important, people. Otherwise, shit like that's going to happen.
From that was enormous. Now, imagine that, but instead of people being angry, they're laughing at you. Also around this time, blogs about Dobson's history and antics started popping up, so some of these were actually really helpful for the research of this video, so if anyone who ran those blogs see this, thank you for your kind work, soldier.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Yeah, I know it sounds, kinda bad to use those as sources, but as we'll later find out, it's probably the only way you'll ever learn of his shenanigans.
I'm doing my part too.
Due to the political climate, the state of Twitter around the time, and now this ass-platting he was now getting, Dobson was easier to rile up more than ever before. This was like getting sprayed in the face with a gun.
Well, to top of it was.
All this criticism. I'll tell you how. Death threats. So many death threats, he ended up getting banned.
So typical internet user way of solving things.
Just to clown on him some more. They found about all his past work, his plagiarism, and his crippling fear of carnival masks. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Dobson has a huge fear of carnival masks. So much in Fortran threads where they would constantly post carnival.
To be fair, they are kind of creepy. Oh, some of them are. I don't really blame him for that phobia. A reasonable one to have.
Vol masks to scare him off from reading the threads. If you want to scare your local Dobson off, wear one of these. This also led to a bunch of images and memes connected.
Alright, this is gonna... Yep. It's about that time. Brace yourselves, people.
Well, I couldn't ignore it forever, but we must. It is a part of Dobson's story, after all.
And I'm gonna have a little tangent on this myself, so, stay tuned. As hard as it may be. For some people.
Do you remember earlier when I made a joke about Dobson potentially making an NSFW account?
I mean, not on Chatman levels.
He had already beaten me to the punch. Did you really think Dobson's only trace online was his old
Maybe. I'll get to that.
No. He had another identity at one point. Just like the Lightbringer and his love for the green M&M, Dobson had his own skeletons in the closet. Dobson had another DeviantArt account dedicated to the thing he loved.
Man, I really need to play Banjo-Kazooie one of these days. Wonder if it's on the Switch. Never actually checked. Yeah, sorry, guys, have to see this.
Under the alias Caddy N, this was Dobson's account dedicated to his love for inflation. No, not the thing currently affecting the US, but the act of filling people, in this scenario women, specifically anime women from the 90s, with air. Whether it be the whole body or specific parts, Dobson was the one drawing this under this account. The art styles are damn near indistinguishable. It was not hard to trace this back to Dobson. Dobson would post a ton of art under this account, not just to DeviantArt, but to a whole other website, known as Expansion Oh god, what have I got my...
Okay, yeah, I know that's a terrible place to pause, but, I actually have to tell this story because I think I might actually forget about it. There was a... Caddy and actually advertised their site on Guy Online at one point. While there is no evidence that Andrew Dobson was preying on actual children, which I know some people would definitely want to come to that conclusion, seeing as some of these characters that he was inflating were underage, but it was insanely irresponsible considering that site was targeting children back in the day, and a lot of adults were, in fact, sexual predators on that site. Especially back then. Yeah, that's the reason why kid spaces have been dying out, people. Kids should not be on the internet.
Myself into... The website is exactly what you think it is. A website for Dobson to post his artwork of girls getting blown up like balloons. You can view all sorts of comics, art pieces, and even some flash games. Oh boy, inflation games! You know the game Kaboom by Activision, the classic where you catch bombs thrown at you from above? Well,
you know, the one that later got turned into a porn game? No, I will never stop making that joke.
But instead of catching bombs, you're instead blocking nails to keep them from popping inflated anime girls.
And somehow I'm less turned on by this game. That is quite the accomplishment.
Games have been lost to time. The download links don't work, and that's a shame. This one looked like a real winner. That goes for most of the site too. Most of it has been lost to time, and only...
Dang it, there's a freaking helicopter.
Certain sections of it work anymore, because you could probably imagine, Dobson didn't really want this still up for people to find, so it's been shut down for well over a decade now. And a lot of you are probably wondering, why am I bringing...
Yeah, it wasn't really... The porn wasn't really that impressive, apparently. Even the people who were into that stuff were kind of sick of them, from what I heard. But yeah, you could totally tell he was into lesbians even back then.
Bringing this up. Why is this relevant? Am I just clowning on a guy for having a weird attraction to something? Am I kink shaming? Well, to be honest, the whole inflation thing isn't even that notable. You used to be able to go on the front page of DeviantArt and you get smacked with inflation art. It's like basic level internet weirdness.
Yeah, I can confirm that as a DeviantArt user.
All this really comes down to is the hardening of the PP, and there are plenty of places you can go to do that. The reason why I'm bringing this up...
Why the fuck is that helicopter still flying around my area?
is the fact that Tom Preston, Andrew Dobson, made this website all those years ago. The same Andrew Dobson who would go on tirades on Twitter on objectifying women and making them appeal to the male gaze, and to stop doing sexist crap, making comics where he beats up guys taking pictures of boobies on ladies who are 100% consenting. He's the one who made this. An entire website dedicated to blowing ladies up, turning them into actual objects where you protect them in flash games from being popped. Dobson did all of that. He's been throwing stones in his glass house the entire time. Rules for thee and not for me. That's the name of the game.
And yeah, this is what I'm about to do a tangent on. There are, in my opinion, two exceptions to kink shaming. The first one is if you're exposing children to this, which is why I hate Schmorky to this day, and why I specifically brought up the guy online situation. And the other exception is if you're preaching political beliefs that completely contradict your fetish. It's why I hate a lot of politicians. Oh hush, you know what? I was gonna make that joke. Those are the only two exceptions I ever do to kink shaming.
Game here. And yeah, of course, once his career took off, he tried scrubbing any and all traces of this past life, but we all know once something is on the internet, it is next to impossible to take it down. So the archives exist, and they'll stay there. A monument to a man's inflated ego. A reminder of who he once was, and how this will be his legacy on the web.
He became his own fetish.
To a slow and painful degradation into the punching bag he would become.
An inflatable punching bag. That actually sounds like a cool children's toy. I didn't intend that to be a joke, but I'll roll with it.
After being a walking meme in a punching bag for a couple of years, after being the subject of many a Tumblr blog, in 2020, Dobson would completely disappear from the internet. He abandoned his Tumblr, he completely wiped all of his comics off his website, and now the whole website is empty. It's still up, but there's nothing there. It's a ghost of a website now. Everything from Dobson himself has been completely wiped. Everything I had to use here I had to get from third-party sources, including those blogs. It really does seem Dobson just packed everything up and left without telling anyone.
Yeah.
Why did Dobson do this?
This is kind of why the third parties were important for this story. And the reason is kind of understandable if you go by a specific theory as to why he left. Though I know for a fact he did throw a tantrum on his Patreon because of reactions to his, I believe it was a Muslim vampire story or something. Yeah, I genuinely don't remember the context, but it was really fucking stupid, so yeah, that was basically the last time we ever heard of Dobson after that.
Why did he just delete everything and leave? Well, it's widely believed This was actually a result of interference from his family. His family apparently told him to touch grass.
Well, to put it politely.
It too much. It is actually believed that Dobson's brother was getting a very high-profile government job, and his brother simply being related to Dobson, he lost said job opportunity. Dobson's actions of threatening people online, threatening politicians, and telling them to off themselves costed his brother a job. And so his family told him to just stop posting online, and it seems like that's what happened.
Yeah, that's... Well, it's only a theory as to that actually being the case. I 100% believe that was why he left the internet. I guess he just finally understood that it was the problem and he just had to stop going on the internet.
Dobson was the tale of a man who refused to listen. He refused to take criticism. He refused to do what many believed was better for him. Your good intentions meant nothing to him. You were just a troll or a bigot if you disagreed with him. He stuck to that mantra, and he never let it go. It didn't help that the things he was making constantly were for him and him alone, and claimed it was him showing support for marginalized groups. After years and years of being a walking punchline, he decided the best thing to do was to leave. 3 years later, and surprisingly, Tom Preston still has not returned to the internet. All the
Well, okay, I know some of you are gonna bring up the whole time he tried to make a return on Blue Sky, but apparently that was a troll. He didn't actually return to Blue Sky. Yeah, I don't think he would have been welcome there. Even considering the people there tend to be pretty left-leaning. You know, back in the... I mean, I call Blue Sky toxically positive, but... It's only really because we have a better block feature than Twitter now. Yeah, unless Twitter actually fixed it, but I wouldn't know. I don't have a Twitter account anymore.
The blogs dedicated to Dobson, all the people documenting his history, have dried up, because he just isn't here anymore. The So You're a Cartoonist website is still up, which means he's probably still paying for the domain. But there's nothing on here, so he's paying for essentially nothing.
I wonder if it's still up now.
As a changed man, no longer the weird, toxic individual he once was. But honestly, if you ask me, the internet did more damage to Tom Preston than anything. I think it's better he stay off it.
Yeah, I agree.
Away from it. Dobson spent his whole life wanting to draw. I have no doubt in my mind he still is. But only for himself and his friends and family, where they're probably less likely to criticize him. He can now draw to his heart's content, without anyone making fun of him for it. Now he can live out his career as a cartoonist in solitude, drawing all the lesbian blip women he wants. And if that's what he wants to do, well, who are we to take that away from him? God bless, like and subscribe, and good night. And remember, boys and girls, don't be a Dobson.
Sound advice.
Andrew Dobson, professional
Artist traces pictures of Big Ben. I can't sing a fucking key. I should probably stop singing. Fuck it. I don't know what I was thinking in doing that. Sounds catchy. But yes, that was the MagicMush's documentary on Andrew Dobson. And even that barely scratched the surface. But anyway, thank you for tuning in to my reaction video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see another one of these, since really I'm really just experimenting with these. But anyways, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all on my streams. Take care, everyone.